Very pleasant. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome once again to O'Neill's Grill for our weekly fan and press luncheon. We've got, really, there's no reason for you to leave O'Neill's today and not be full because you can get a great meal, and we've got a lot of JMU sports talk here today as we've got a full lineup. We're going to start off with JMU football coach Mike Houston as he'll talk a little bit about this past week's win at William & Mary in this upcoming weekend, homecoming weekend game against the Wildcats of New Hampshire for Saturday's 3:30 start time. We also have for you today, as we're in the middle of the preseason practice schedule for basketball, we'll have Sean O'Regan as well as Lewis Rowe will join us for brief periods of time here this afternoon. So again, welcome into O'Neill's Grill. A couple of other JMU sports notes before we turn it over to Coach Houston. Men's soccer, the Dukes are at home tomorrow night against Penn State. It's a non-conference matchup. They have one more regular season game to play, and that is Saturday night, 8 o'clock against Drexel. And should the Dukes win that, they will be the regular season champs. They took over first place on Saturday night with a win on the road over Northeastern, so that is a very big matchup. If the Dukes do win, then the CA tournament comes here to Harrisonburg the weekend of November the 10th. So the Dukes, again, tomorrow against Penn State. First 100 students will receive a free JMU beanie for tomorrow night's contest. That game on Saturday night, by the way, is at 8 o'clock, so that gives you plenty of time to get the football game and then get over to the football game at Centera Park. Women's soccer, the Dukes are in the CA tournament. Once again, 5 consecutive years for Dave Lombardo and the Dukes. They host William & Mary Sunday at 1. That is a quarterfinal matchup in the CA tournament. The winner of that gets into the semis, will face number 1 seed and host Hofstra the following weekend. Volleyball also at home a couple of times this weekend. The Dukes hosting William & Mary on Friday night at 7 and then Elon Sunday at 1. Those matches are free of charge. And good luck to Dave Rinker and the JMU women's cross country Dukes. They run in the CA championships this Saturday at Elon, North Carolina. Again, we got a full lineup for you today. The Dukes in football, 7 in a row, 7-0, going for a school record 8th in a row and trying to make it 20 in a row. But as far as Coach Houston is concerned, just 1 in a row, and that's coming up this Saturday against New Hampshire. Right, Coach? We'll bring in Coach Mike Houston.
Good afternoon. Thanks to everybody for being here again this week. Thanks again to Tim and Mo for hosting us here at O'Neill's Grill. Fantastic weekend this past weekend on the road down in Williamsburg for our football program. Getting the first win at William & Mary since 2011, so it was a significant afternoon for really everyone in our locker room, but especially for the older players, the seniors who had a couple of tough games down there, the last couple of trips, so they were very motivated going into the game. Really pleased with the way our team played in all 3 phases. Felt like we were facing a defense that was ranked in the top 15 nationally. So we knew we were going to be challenged on that side of the football. We're pleased with the way we were able to move the ball. Very pleased with our special teams on the day. Thought that we did a good job of controlling field position with the combination of our special teams and our defense, and obviously with 6 forced turnovers and significant return yardage and just a really solid performance by our defense. That was really a big key to the victory as well. So great win on the road. I've said it many times. In this league, road wins are precious. They're very, very hard to come by, so anytime you get one, it's a significant one, and especially when you're playing a team the caliber of William & Mary and you're playing a team that is one of your big rivals. So good weekend this past weekend. Excited to be back home this coming weekend at Bridgeforth Stadium. Another formidable opponent coming in here in New Hampshire, who I consider to be a playoff caliber team. Ranked in the top 15 in the country nationally. And Sean McDonald's done a great job in his career there. I don't know how many, 14, 15 years in a row they've been to the playoffs. So, they're a very experienced postseason team. They're playing at an extremely high level right now, coming off a blowout win at home last week against Townsend. Should be just a great matchup, and really excited about being back at home. It is a sold-out game, so it'll be a packed Bridgeforth Stadium again this weekend, and just I can't tell you how much everyone especially the players and the coaches and everybody in our football program appreciate the fantastic support from our alumni and fans. Right now we lead the nation in home attendance at the FCS level, and I think we're ahead of about half of the FBS teams as far as home attendance. So it says a lot about the support we have here at JMU for our football program, and certainly it's appreciated from the players and the coaches. So anything about last week's game or the upcoming opponent, New Hampshire?
Coach, Dave Thomas, ESPN Radio, JMU Sprint Broadcast Network. You're, I think, second in the nation in interceptions, 15 of those now. You talked about the turnovers you forced at William & Mary on Saturday. Most of the teams you've played have been coming from behind. So they've thrown because they've had to. New Hampshire throws because they're good at it.
Right.
How do they stress your defense? How is your defense's approach going to be maybe a little different against New Hampshire this week?
Well, the biggest thing that's going to challenge us is just, some of their personnel. I think Trevor Knight is probably playing as good as any player in the league right now. He's a legitimate dual threat quarterback. I think he's maybe their best running back. When he gets out in the open space, whether it's a design quarterback run or if it's a quarterback scramble, he can really give you some problems. And then, he has the great ability to throw on the run. He's been very accurate this year on the run, which creates problems because as you extend plays and plays break down, it really puts stress on the defense. And then his accuracy really causes problems there. And then, Neil O'Connor is leading the league in every kind of receiving category you possibly can, and he's really been, torching opposing defenses. And, Malik Love and some of the other receivers are quality receivers. So they have a lot of personnel that are going to stress us. We've got to do a great job, this coming week of, being sound against the run as well, because, New Hampshire is still, they are a team that wants to run the football. So we've got to be solid against the run, but we've got to do a great job with containing Trevor Knight, trying to, cause him to get uncomfortable in the pocket. And then we've got to do a great job on those receivers and just trying to keep everything in front of us, not giving up the big plays, and, really trying to get us into, like we talked about the last couple of weeks, getting us into good third down situations and then getting off the field on third down. That's going to be critical Saturday, is getting off the field.
Tommy Keeler, Northern Virginia Daily. Can you talk a little about Cornell Urquhart and kind of how you've seen him progress over the last few years?
I'm sorry, repeat the question.
Can you talk a little about Cornell and kind of how you've seen him progress over the last couple of years?
Well, Cornell Urquhart, and Cornell, when we first got here, you see this, this big body, good-looking, physical specimen, but really was not a developed football player. Played really high. Was not the most physical player in the world, and just he was a typical young, undeveloped lineman. And we really challenged him that first spring. I felt like he embraced that. He's a guy that wants to be good, and he has worked extremely hard for the last almost 2 years in the weight room with Coach Williams and with Coach Hansen on the field to develop his body. He's significantly stronger. He's really a fundamentally sound player, and he's really now all of a sudden he's a big guy that knows how to use his strength. He's a very physical presence there at the three technique. So and he's for a couple of weeks now he's been playing with a little banged up. Nobody knew that. He went out and played anyway, but that I think that's another thing that shows how far he's come, because I don't know that 2 years ago he would have pushed through the way he has. But that just shows his maturity and his commitment to doing what he can to help the team win.
Greg Medea, DNR, does Trevor Knight, anything he's doing this year, remind you of what and how Brian plays?
A lot. I mean, he's going to give us the same problems that Brian gives other teams. He's good in the pocket. If you let him sit back there in the pocket, he's going to pick you apart. But if you flush him out, he gets on the run, he's equally as good on the run. It's the rare combination of a guy that you can throw in the pocket, has the ability to run, but is also very accurate throwing the ball on the run. So we're going to have a lot of the problems this week with him that people have with Brian week to week.
Does it help that your defense has seen Brian a lot in practice?
Yeah, it probably does, because Donnie talks about it all the time. Them working scramble drill. Well, they work it against our defense. So our defensive kids, they get used to they have to work on developing them playing scramble drill as well, and there's a certain way you defend that, and so they do have. It's not like we're just trying to do that this week. They do it because we go good against good every day during the week. So they get plenty of experience against Bryan.
David Guzman, TV3 in Harrisonburg. Does it help that you two met twice last year, or do you completely throw that out the window because they're that different this year?
The only way it helps is just that, you're familiar with them as a team. They're a different team this year than they were last year. They have different players. Trevor is far more advanced this year than he was a year ago. Neil O'Connor kind of came on last year. Now he's the best receiver in the league. So, players grow up and they develop. So teams do change, but you have a general idea of what kind of team they are. They're going to be a hard-nosed physical defense. They're going to play very, very hard. They are going to do the same thing on offense. That they're going to give you everything they've got every single time out, so that you've got to come back at them the same way. So, it's just we both understand what we're up against. I think that you're seeing two teams that are probably fairly similar that are going to face off Saturday afternoon.
Coach, you talked about wanting to get off the field on third down, but with what they do through the passing game, they're 10 of 16 on fourth down conversions this year. So third and long doesn't scare them. Fourth down situations doesn't scare them. What makes them so dangerous in those particular down situations of what they do that you're really going to have to contend with this week?
Well, they have the ability to make the big play. They have the ability to spread you out and to create one-on-one matchups, and then they have the ability to make the big plays with their individual skill kids. And and they do a lot of different things. They do, you're going to see a lot of the muddle huddle stuff where what Oregon used to do with Chip Kelly, where they're spread out all over the field and they've got linemen on the hash and the rest of the formation on the other side, and you're going to see stuff like that. So they put a lot of stress on you, just everything they do and all the players that they have that can make plays. So but anytime you get a quality quarterback, that's the key to being successful on third down and fourth down, is having the trigger man that can make the plays. And that's what they got in Trevor Knight.
What stands out most to you about New Hampshire's defense?
Well, a lot of them played against us last year. So they were a solid defensive unit last year. They've got 3 of 4 back on the D-line. The 58, the big inside linebacker, is back from injury. He missed the first half of the season. He played last week against Townsend and played very well. In the secondary, they have 3 of 4 starters back from last year. 2 of them first-team all-conference or 2 all-conference. And so, they have quality players over there. And then, like I said before, they're going to play hard. They're going to be disciplined. You're really going to have to work and grind it out to move the football against them. So, our offense, again, just like the last several weeks, they're going to be challenged again on Saturday.
Last year, Bryan, I think, had 2 pretty good games against them, 5 touchdowns in one and 4 touchdowns in the other. Do you anticipate them trying to play you guys the same way with those one-on-one matchups on the outside, or do you anticipate them trying to do something else to defend and slow Bryan?
I don't know. It's to a degree like us, they are what they are schematically, but they do have the experience from those 2 games last year, and I think that especially going into the first game, they really wanted to try to put it on Bryan. That was the design of the game plan, and he responded. And in the playoff game, I think that Bryan played very well there as well. But again, maybe I don't know what their thinking was coming into that game, because Bryan had not played in a couple of weeks because he's coming off the injury. So going into this game, they know he's going to be there. They know what he's capable of. So you could see some tweaks in their scheme. We'll find out at about 3:35 on Saturday.
Coach, how does your depth compare to where you guys were at this point last year, and how might that play a role in this weekend's game?
Well, I think our depth already has been a role. We haven't talked about it a whole lot, but we had eight kids last weekend that either started or were slated to start this year that did not play, and we're still continuing to play at a very high level. And so I think that speaks to the depth that we were able to develop over the last couple of years with recruiting and developing our roster. And so I think you continue to see that week in, week out, where, if Clue's not there, then all of a sudden Clayton Cheatham and Nick Carlton step up. Jaron goes down, Nick Edwards steps up, or Liam Fernadel, or Zaire Bethea. You see guys that are getting their chances to play, and they're playing at a high level, and so you don't see much of a dip in the performance of the team. So I think it's definitely something that's our strength. I think that we have quality kids that we've tried very, very hard to redshirt that we haven't played yet, that I firmly believe could go out and help us. But, you know, we try to put the players in the best position they can to develop and to be ready. And we talk about it all the time, the next man up deal. You know, they're all one snap away from being a starter. And we talk about, you know, if you practice like a starter, one day you're going to be a starter. And if you practice like a backup, you're always going to be a backup. And I do think they understand that, and that's why so many of those players are ready when their number's called.
Coach, does this game have the potential to be, for lack of a better term, a shootout if you look back to the fourth quarter in the regular season last year when you had the big lead and they closed the gap quickly? And how much more pressure does that put on your offense in the red zone to get 6 and 7 instead of 3?
Well, I hope it's not a shootout because that means we're not playing very good defensively. But, you know, obviously you have two offenses that are very capable. So, you know, you're going to – this is probably going to be the biggest test we've had defensively, at least since East Carolina. But maybe overall this year. So, you know, we're going to have to play very, very well on that side of the football. And on the flip side, you know, I think our offense is going to have to play at a high level in order to execute and put points on the board against their defense. So we'll see how it works out, but this should be a pretty even matchup on Saturday. Anything else? All right, thanks a lot for being here. Looking forward to this Saturday at Bridgeforth Stadium. Go Dukes.